If you're in e-commerce and your international shipping costs feel completely out of control lately, well, you are not imagining it. The old playbook, it's gone. In this survival guide, we are going to break down why we're in a totally new era of supply chain chaos and, way more importantly, what you can actually do about it. You know, this quote really says it all. If you thought the pandemic was the peak of supply chain craziness, think again. It was just the warm-up act. The challenges that we're all facing now are so much more complex, and frankly, they're here to stay. I mean, just think back to 2019 for a second. Things were, well, they were predictable, right? Rates were pretty stable, and global e-commerce was just growing smoothly. That world is ancient history. We're now operating in a world of what feels like permanent unpredictability. So how did we get here? Well, it wasn't just one single thing. It was a rapid-fire series of massive shocks. First, COVID hit. Then came all the geopolitical conflicts. And now we're seeing these huge shifts in trade policy. Each one of these has just added another layer of complexity, messing with every single step of getting a product to your customer. To really get what's happening to your bottom line, you have to look at three massive disruptions that are all happening at the same time. These aren't just little problems. No, these are business model killers that have basically formed a perfect storm for anyone in e-commerce. All right, first up is the one that gets the most headlines. Tariffs. These ongoing trade disputes, especially between the US and China, have created this enormous new layer of costs, one that just didn't exist for most of us a few years ago. And just look at the scale of this. We're not talking about a couple of percentage points here. The Peterson Institute for International Economics is reporting that the average effective tariff on Chinese goods is now 47.5%. That is a huge direct hit to your landed cost, no two ways about it. And it's not just the direct cost, right? The fallout is massive. You've got delays at customs, your profit margins are getting squeezed, and customs brokers are charging higher fees. An OmniSense survey actually found that over half of businesses have already had to change their pricing or where they source from. And get this isn't going away anytime soon. We expect these tariffs to be around until at least 2029. Okay, the second disruption completely changes the business model for thousands of direct-to-consumer brands. It's the end of de minimis. This was that little loophole that let low-value shipments come into countries like the US duty-free. Well, that loophole is now slammed shut. And this is happening everywhere. It's a global trend. The US got rid of its $800 threshold back in August 2025. The EU is following suit in July 2026, and the UK is going to do the same thing by 2029. So here's the crucial takeaway. If your entire business model was built on shipping low-value items directly from overseas, that model is officially broken. And as if that wasn't already enough to deal with, the third disruption is a major fuel crisis. This one's being driven by two separate, still unresolved geopolitical conflicts, and it's hitting everything: sea, air, even the last-mile delivery trucks bringing packages to your customers' doors. So this volatility is really coming from two main sources. First, you've got the long-running Red Sea crisis, which has basically closed the Suez Canal, a vital artery for global trade. And second, there's the more recent and much sharper shock from the conflict involving Iran, which has sent energy markets into a total tailspin. To put that Red Sea rerouting into perspective, just think about this number from Maersk. Forcing a single container ship to go all the way around Africa adds about $1 million in extra fuel costs. And guess who ends up paying for that? Yeah, that cost gets passed directly onto you. Then, the second shockwave hit. On February 28, 2026, military strikes on Iran led to the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Now, 20% of the world's oil flows through that one choke point. So, of course, Brent crude shot past $100 a barrel. What that means for you is that fuel surcharges are now changing almost daily. Okay, that is the storm. It's a lot, I know. But here's the thing. You are not helpless. So now, let's pivot to the solutions. We're going to talk about a clear, actionable playbook for how your e-commerce business can build some real resilience and actually fight back. So this playbook has 4 key steps. First, you have to get brutally honest about your true costs. Second, diversification isn't optional anymore for your suppliers, your carriers, even your markets. Third, it's time to completely rethink where you hold your inventory. And finally, you have to start planning for disruption as something that will happen, not something that might happen. Let's break these down.
Let's kick off with step 1, understanding your true landed cost.
Think of it like this. The price of your product isn't the real cost. The real cost is that price plus all the taxes, the shipping, the duties, the fuel surcharges, and the broker fees it takes to actually get it into your customer's hands. In this kind of environment, an estimate from last quarter is basically useless. This has to be a live calculation, period. So, knowing your true costs then forces you to deal with steps 2 and 3, diversifying and moving your inventory closer to your customers. And that means no more single sourcing from one country. It means you have to hold stock in market. Look, navigating this new level of complexity is a huge challenge, and it brings up a really important question. When should you bring in an expert logistics partner to help you out? For a lot of businesses, the answer to that question is right now. And that leads to a critical choice. Do you need a 3PL, a third-party logistics provider, or do you need a 4PL, a fourth-party one? They actually serve very different needs, and choosing the right one is absolutely essential for pulling off your new strategy. Here's a simple way to think about it. A 3PL is the hands-on doer. They're the ones running the physical warehouse and handling fulfillment for you in a specific country. They're perfect if you're focused on just 1 or 2 markets. A 4PL, on the other hand, is the strategic coach. They manage your entire supply chain, coordinating multiple 3PLs and carriers for you. This is the model you want for complex, multi-market operations. Choosing the right one is how you build a real contingency plan, and that's step 4. So, what's the big picture here? Well, the biggest mistake you can make is just waiting for things to get back to normal. Because this is the new normal, and it demands a fundamental shift away from that 2019 mindset to a 2026 reality. The shift in thinking is crystal clear when you put it side by side. The 2019 strategy, sourcing everything from one country, shipping direct to the customer, setting prices once a year and forgetting about it, that's all over. Today's reality demands diversified suppliers, local in-market fulfillment, dynamic live pricing, and a concrete plan for when, not if, disruption hits. If you only take one thing away from all this, please let it be this. In today's world, rigidity is death. Flexibility is resilience. The only way to survive and actually thrive is to build that flexibility into every single link of your supply chain. So I'll just leave you with this question to think about for your own business. Are you truly set up for the reality of today's world? Or are you still playing by a set of rules that just don't exist anymore? The answer to that could very well determine your future.